Hey guys, Doug Firebaugh, and I want to welcome you today to the Leaders Luncheon. And of course, as I always say, if you're ever in Europe, it's Leaders Dinner. But we also played again for Asia and Australia, Brazil, Africa, and so this is actually your luncheon too. So we want to welcome you guys as well, because the Home Business Radio Network, guys, I'm telling you, we're building and building and building a worldwide audience. And thank you so much for tuning in and listening. And tell somebody about it. Tell them about all the show hosts that we have. We're closing on about 30 show hosts now. And tell them about all the great content. And more importantly, tell them just, hey, this is going to accelerate your business, because that's what we're all about. Occasionally you meet somebody that you just absolutely love, not only because of the personality, but just simply because you can have such a great connection with them. I met this next gentleman several years ago, and immediately, him being a musician, and I'm kind of a musician, we kind of bonded, and we just really, really have become great friends. But I've watched him over the last several years, and his company is just skyrocketing. It's just so great to see it. And he was a distributor prior to his company, one of the top distributors of a company. And with that, I want to introduce Michael Wenniger. Michael, how are you doing today, sir?
Oh, my goodness. If it was any better, I can't believe it. I'm with Doug Firebaugh. You can't have a better day than that.
I'll send you the check, trust me. Michael, one of the things that I just think is so cool, and by the way, you still owe me the MP3s of your latest CD. Most people don't know this, but you used to be a guitar player, I believe lead guitar player for Cheap Trick, the band Cheap Trick. Is that not true?
I was with a lot of the different hair bands in the 80s, and was in my own group, actually, that we had a one-hit wonder, and we toured with Cheap Trick, we toured with Styx and REO, and every band that you could ever imagine from the 1980s that had a whole bunch of hair in it. We were usually on the road with them at one point in time, touring with all of them. So, yeah, I've done a lot of that.
So here's my question. How in the world did you move from touring with REO and touring with Cheap Trick and touring with all these other quote-unquote hair bands to home business and network marketing? That is a transition that I think really the audience is going to go, yeah, how did that happen?
Well, what's funny about that story is I was pounding my way through college. I came from a family where from the Midwest, and we didn't have any money, and not a lot of money at all. My father worked for the Wisconsin Gas Company, so we did our chores not for allowances. We did them out of respect because we were growing up that way. And what happened was, as I was going through college and having 2 jobs and playing music and doing anything I possibly could to get myself through school, my brother comes up to me, my little brother, and says, hey, you know what, we got to look at this home business. I'm like, what are you talking about, a home business? We don't know anything about business, and I end up being in some guy's home one day, and I decided to just go look at it with him, and he said, I was like sitting there going, are you kidding me? Look at me. I'm beautiful. What do I need this stuff for? And here I am. You got to picture this guy. I got hair down the middle of my back looking like David Lee Roth or, White Snake or something like that. And I'm like, come on. And I didn't do it. And I didn't. But I was fortunate enough to get something in the mail, took a course about the networking industry, learned some things about compounding income and having reoccurring income, and took these 5 things that I learned. I only picked 5 out of the whole thing, transitioned them and said, let's try it. I don't have a lot of time, but we can do it an hour a day. And, 4 days a week. And that's what I did. But you know what? I treated it like I was going to work. And the next month came, and in the mail was a check for $200. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, what's that, right? And I was like, nobody told me to push this box or sweep this floor or anything like that. We just got $200. And I called up my brother, and, what do you do when you're in your 20s? You go out, you blow it in one night, you celebrate, you go to the club, and, hey, wowee. And that is what started the whole snowball effect, because I thought maybe just one more person, maybe just tell one more person. Little did I know, I was in front of a bubble of one of the greatest companies in this industry, that within that bubble, when it hit momentum, in that 5-year momentum swing, made over 791 millionaires. I was in a position where I never had to work again, and So then I focused on just music and trying to, do that gig and make it in there a little bit. And, I'm a kind of guy that if I'm going to focus on something, if I'm going to be on music, it's going to be, I'm hitting a video. And I did, we had a, one hit Little Wonder and did that and got to, meet all these folks in the bands. And when I focus on something, I focus for greatness, and as much as I can get out of that. So
I love that. And when I focus on something, I focus for greatness. Michael, that's awesome.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. And so, I'm living, walking proof. People go, well, can I do it? Can I do it? Well, let me tell you something. You don't get guys that you hang out with the band in a networking business. That was the only people I knew. It was sleep. What's the name of that song? Sleep all day. Play all night, sleep all day. Right? I mean, those are the kind of guys you don't get in this industry. So I didn't have any real, people that I knew. So I just went out there and told people what I had. And basically my philosophy back in those days, 20 years ago, was the same philosophy I have right now. Hey, this is what I got. You use it anyway. You need it. You use it. So here's what's going to happen if you do. So are you in, or you're either in or you're in the way. So one or the other. Either get in and let's go make this thing great, or get out of the way because I gotta move forward.
You're one of those rare individuals that is a CEO and president and founder of a company, but yet at the same time, you came from the field a hugely, should I say, successful distributor, one of the top earners in what I call one of the iconic companies, Nu Skin. Now, here's my question to you. What was the struggles that you had? Because there's a lot of people listening that are struggling in their business, to be perfectly blunt. And I always like to ask this question, what was the one struggle that you really had that you felt like that you had to overcome, and what did you do about it?
I think, what most people struggle with in life is what they would call rejection. They got this thing about rejection. But I look at it as, when we're kids, you got your little T-shirt on it that says no fear. Society creates the fear of rejection. And you have to be in. If I talked to somebody and they said that they weren't interested in what I was doing, well, so what? You know what? The bottom line is they didn't reject it, because first off, you have to be in the program and then be in it for a while and then not do it and then not talk to me. Then there's a little bit of rejection there. But other than that, the guy's just trying to tell you, hey, it's not the right time in my life to even change my life. So, until I get, sometimes you have to be, broken before you're blessed, and they're not broken enough yet to really be blessed. I look at it like there's entrepreneurs, and then there's people that work for entrepreneurs. Which one would you like to be? Because we can be both, right? Oh,
that's good. There's a lot of people out there, for whatever reason, maybe it's just not in their DNA, but they still make great customers. And you told me one time that your customer count alone in your organization was off the charts. How did it feel to have just tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of customers?
It was unbelievable, because you know what? When you take this whole industry apart, it's all customers. All a distributor is a happy customer, a happy wholesale customer, and that's what I try and teach people. But I teach it from a different standpoint now, to where I try, in order to create success in this industry, there's a lot of things that, all these conditions that need to be right. So what I try and teach somebody is how to, forget about, the event that you just attended, and the loud music, and the streamers, and the lights, and the dancing, and the loving, and the hugging, and the white shirts, and the red ties, and the kissing, and all that kind of stuff that's going on, and all that love, because you know what? When you get back home, a week later, you're back into wherever you are in life, okay? And the thing is I try and teach people now how to pick the right company by getting out of all that and getting outside the company and getting outside and looking in, and make sure the conditions are right for the company, so the conditions can be right for you.
Let me ask you a question.
If you can put the best networker, here's what I tell people, Doug. I tell you, you can put the best networker in the wrong program, and he goes broke, and you won't make anything. But put the worst networker in the right program, and all the conditions are right, he becomes the next guy you read about in Success or Entrepreneur magazine.
I know so many people that, well, let me put it to you this way. My mentor told me one time, he says, there's two different things you've got. He says, you've got talent and you've got position. And he said, I would much rather have positioning and timing versus talent and people, because he said, with timing and positioning, he says, it doesn't matter whether you're any good at this or not, you will create some serious momentum. And
timing and positioning is 99%. Ability is only 1%.
Brother, that'll preach. Well, most people, Michael, a lot of people, ton of people know you, obviously, not only from the last 20 years, but also on Facebook and various other social networking sites, but also they have seen you on TV because over the last several years, you have got a product that has been featured on so many TV stations and just interviews called Power Pops. And just kind of curious, out of all the TV interviews you've done, what do you think was the coolest one? What was the one that you knew that when you saw Power Pops on TV, you went, wow, man, that rocks?
I think the first time, I don't think there's one specific I'm so fortunate and so lucky and so grateful for every appearance I've ever made, from Good Morning America to Extra TV to The Doctors and Tyra Banks and, all these different TV shows. I don't think there's one show that stands out in my mind, but what stands out in my mind is the phone call I got, because a celebrity that was on, I guess, The Sopranos, and I don't watch The Sopranos, so how am I supposed to know, right? He found our product online at that time, and found out that there's a money-back guarantee, and he thought, what's the worst that can happen? I don't like them, and I'm going to get my money back. And he used them, and he was on a talk show, a radio talk show actually, and they asked him how did he lose all that weight, because he said that he lost so much weight they had to write it into his script.
Wow!
Because I found this little guy in Phoenix, Arizona, that had these lollipops that said that they would give you energy and help you lose weight, and they're backed with a guarantee. What's the worst that can happen? I get my money back. He goes, I bought my first bag, and within my first week I lost 9 pounds. And he goes, look at me now. 4 months later, I've lost 88 pounds. And then after that, the minute he said that, without me even knowing there was an interview going on, I was actually walking through a mall. My phone is ringing off the hook. Hollywood's going crazy. Paparazzi is at our headquarters. Vans with towers up. I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable. And then I think the thing that makes me feel like even more pinch me, am I alive, is when Extra TV did a hit about the product again without me even knowing it at the time, and they caught Britney Spears sucking on a lollipop in Hollywood, and they're saying, was this one of these Power Pops? And everybody can go, oh, well, could have been any lollipop, but guess what? We have writing on our sticks that say, eat candy, lose weight, on the actual stick, and it'll tell you the flavor of the pop itself. And what happened is she threw the stick down, and that's when the paparazzi dove on the stick, found out what lollipop it actually was, and she lost 27 pounds on our product as well.
That's such a great story for our profession, because it really goes to show that it's still, regardless of what people think, yes, you got to go out and build teams. Yes, you got to go out and multiply what you do, but it's still all about the product.
It is, and that's what it all boils down to. And I think that's where a lot of companies lose it, because they go out there and, they tell you that their product is the event that they're throwing, instead of looking at really what the ingredients are, and then it has no sustainability. And what happens next is people dive into these companies because of atmosphere, and then all of a sudden, whoop, wake up the next morning, website doesn't work, where is everybody? And then they get a bad taste in their mouth. I tell people, look, you need to look for it's not about a single product. That's That's not how it works in this industry anymore. It doesn't work like that. I tell people, get outside the company itself and make it like a real good business decision. Look at it from the inside, from the outside in, and ask yourself, is this the next way of life before it becomes the way of life, meaning that I can grab a piece of the global market share of the next economy? And if you can answer that question, yes, and I can teach you how I do that, but if you can answer yes to that question, timing and positioning, like we just talked about, is right, and then kaboom, oh my goodness, all I got to say is what? Microsoft, Red Bull, Coca-Cola, Xerox, Google, Facebook, Amazon.com. We don't have to go on after that.
You did something really interesting. That's just your personality. Obviously, you always want to be expanding. In about 2007, I remember you calling me and saying, "Doug, I've got the golden key." I mean, I really remember you being so excited you could hardly breathe, and you decided to do a transition. And when you did that as CEO and president, that's really risky, to be perfectly blunt, because a lot of companies don't transition well, but you have. What was your main reason of transitioning into a complete green-oriented product company?
Because I did exactly that. You know what? We can all say hindsight's 20/20. A $400 investment in Microsoft, back in the 80s made you $46 million today. An $800 investment in Amazon makes you $22 million today. And we can talk about all those things, and we were all there. Good thing we weren't in the garage with Bill Gates, because we'd be probably hanging each other from a tree right now, knowing what we've lost. And we'd say, all right, hindsight's 20/20. So this networking industry is so competitive. What you have to do is do what I just said. Get from the outside in and say, is this the next way of life before it becomes a way of life? And so, I was looking at that from not even a networking standpoint, just a business standpoint. And then you start just doing your own research. And here's what I found out. Organic spending went up 800% in the last 2 years. So 800%. And you got to take that a little bit further, right? So now, organic spending went up 800% in the last 2 years, all right? Why? Why did that happen? Not because, Doug Firebaugh woke up today and said, wow, you know what? Today's a good day for an organic carrot. It doesn't work like that. No, it's because of education. We're in the information age now. So they heard something on the radio, on the TV, they read it in a magazine, or they got it in an email, or saw it on the internet, or 2020 prime time, and they found out that, oh my goodness, very good example. You go, unfortunately, one arm of our government runs on donations, and then they allow things to be on your store shelf. So here's the example I use for everybody. There's a government website, the Cosmetic Database, ewg.org/skin deep. Put your product in there and see what happens. Because you know what? I always use the toothpaste scenario, because everybody brushes their teeth every day. And here's why the spending went up, is that because they got educated. So they found out that their Colgate or their Crest or their name brand toothpaste, they plugged it into that website and went, oh my goodness, I'm putting 22 types of cancer in my mouth? My goodness. And did you know that most of that toothpaste has the same exact thing that Drano Crystals has in it?
Wow.
Because if it can clean pipes, they probably think it can clean your teeth. And so now I looked deeper into that. I saw that, right? So we became a solution-based company for two reasons. One, I don't want to use it anymore, and I wouldn't tell you about a problem if I didn't have a solution for it. So it was coming out, looking at it the inside in, because it's not going to be, here's the thing about this industry anymore. It's not going to be about the next bottle of juice. Here's how I look at it. Again, is this a way of life before it becomes a way of life that will change the global economy? And I'll explain what I mean by that in less than a minute. But it's not going to be in this industry the next bottle of juice or the next pill or the next shake or the next bracelet or the next lollipop. That's only one product. It's going to be a complete way of life. Every prediction out there, CNN, MSNBC says 8% of the world right now buys green and organic products, organic and chemical-free products. And in 7 to 8 years, it's going to be 98% of the world, and it will create more money and more millionaires and billionaires than Microsoft and the Internet combined because of education. So when I saw all of that, I knew that, hey, it's not going to be about one of this or one of those. It's going. You want a company that's going to last forever? Go find a company that's focusing on a complete lifestyle change. And if you can do that, you got yourself the next home run. So I saw that, and here's the biggest thing. I saw nobody in the world was doing it. They were talking about it, but nobody was focusing on that. So I'm the first guy in the world. Forget about network marketing and forget about mom and pop or just traditional business. I am the first guy in the world that is focused on 100% chemical-free and certified organic living. So they're saying this one last thing is that, look, right now it's 8% of the world. In 7 to 8 years, it's going to be 98%. So when do you want a piece of the action? You know what? Whether we like it or not, the green economy is dominating the way we live. Just so we can get in it right now and allow it to make us rich, or we can wait 3 or 4 years from now and get it, and then we'll all be looking at each other going, oh my gosh, look at it, we got to get into something with that green stuff, chemical. And then we jump into a company, and then we're playing catch up. And nobody ever wins the race playing catch up. Or we wait 7 or 8 years, and it's going to be just as common as that computer and that screen you're looking at every single day. And then you aren't going to have a choice because there's not a storefront around that. So they're going to say, get that garbage off my shelf because chemicals aren't selling anymore. We need to make money here. And believe you me, you and I, Doug, we know 25 years ago, we can remember when you could buy a typewriter, for goodness sakes. Now where do you see a typewriter? In a museum. You can't even buy one. So what part of that lifestyle do you want? And then here's a real good thing when you were talking about the news stations are going, look at this guy who owns this company called Essante Worldwide. What an ingenious marketing way to market that company. He's allowing the general public to grab a piece of the global market share of the actual next economy, the green economy. There's your answer. That's why I saw all this. And I saw it from not only from a business standpoint for people that want to get in this business, but I saw it from a complete health standpoint because we're living in a world right now, or in a country where you got a 49% clinically diagnosed cancer rate. And what about the people that are walking around that don't have it? Oh my goodness, you're up over 50%. And when you and I were kids, Doug, people died in their sleep and of old age. And what they're finding out, it's all coming from all the stuff you're using. And this is a real simple thing to learn. You can learn it on this show with Doug Firebaugh today. And you put something in your mouth, within 20 seconds it goes into your bloodstream. On a wet body, when you're in the shower, 45 seconds. If you just put something on you, it takes about 90 seconds to leach into your bloodstream. And you know what? It doesn't come out. So not only you are what you eat, but you are what you put on yourself.
Let me ask you a question. Where do you see, and this is a loaded question, but coming from a owner's perspective as well as your time in the profession, Michael, where do you see the profession in the industry of network marketing headed over the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
I think that when I look at this profession, I think people, from when I got involved into this industry, you didn't have a lot of choice. Mm-hmm. And now today, there's a lot of choice. And there's a lot of people with the economy the way it is, where they wait until they're so desperate that they start jumping into things that they shouldn't even be jumping into. And then they don't make good business decisions. And then what do you have to do? Go through about 3 or 4 of those types of companies before all of a sudden you get it? And here's what I think every message should be for everybody. Look at what you're doing and what you have and ask yourself, again, one thing. Is this going to be the next way of life before it becomes a way of life that will actually change the way the world lives and it can, bust into and it's going to change the global economy? And if your answer is no, then what are you doing? It's like being in a truck in the mud, just spinning your wheels. I think the future of this industry is going to get that it has to regress to progress, because everybody thinks it's all about, slamming a bunch of stuff on the internet and so on and so forth. Where's the relationship? This is a relationship industry. And in order for that to happen, that needs to happen. And then one thing you have to keep in your mind at all times, look at the greatest companies in the world making billions and billions of dollars every year after year after year, and ask yourself why you can count them on one hand. Actually, there's 6 in the United States, so, right, there's 6 of them. And why was it 30 years before it's ever happened and it hasn't happened again? And here's your answer. Companies build catalogs, and catalogs build companies of necessities, commodities, things that people need and use every day. Couple all that together, look at what you have, and if you see that, and it makes a lot of sense, you just hit yourself a home run.
Let me ask you one final question. We've got about another couple minutes here. If there's one thing that you could tell the listener, that, and obviously they're sitting there and taking notes and they're maybe struggling a little bit, if there's one little secret to this business, coming from a distributor standpoint, because obviously you were one of the top for many, many years, what is that one little secret that you could share with them saying, here it is?
Simple. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing. You don't let anybody kid you. You're not getting in this industry and all of a sudden tomorrow you wake up or next week you're waking up with a $10,000 check. This is a business like any other business. Now, let's treat it like your job. If you treat it like a job, whether it's an hour a day or 10 hours a day, you will become successful if you work it like that. And you have to give it time. What happens is it's like the guy digging in the cave. And you know what? He gave up, and he was 2 inches away and 2 swings away with that picket to hit, and then all of a sudden all the diamonds are falling down. It's tenacity.
You know, I have to agree with you there because it's, as my mentor taught me, he says, it's often, Doug, not the most talented. It's the most persistent and relentless people that become millionaires in network marketing. And I would have to totally 100% agree with that, Michael. I think you hit a home run with that's so good. Guys, you've been listening to the Leaders Luncheon. And we have been talking with Michael Wenniger, who is the CEO, founder, and president of Essante Worldwide. He is a friend of mine, and he's also been a top earner within the top 2 or 3 or 4 people in the entire company of $1 billion company. So he's been on both sides, and today we heard not only his story, but also a little bit about his company, and also I hope you got the nuggets in between everything. It was amazing. Michael, thank you so much for being here today. You've been listening to the Home Business Radio Network, the Leaders Luncheon, Positive Powered Radio.